Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's webcast. We're going to be talking about selling on LinkedIn, and we're going to do a bit of a demo session today. So if you're joining, I can see some people are joining on LinkedIn. Some people are joining on YouTube. Do let me know where you're joining from. It'd be nice to interact with you through the chat. So if you're on LinkedIn, you can comment on the feed there. If you're on YouTube, there's a chat on the side. I think on Facebook, it's underneath. And on Twitter, I think it's underneath too. So do let us know where you're joining from. I can see Arnas is here. Welcome. We're going to dig into some of the principles to sell on LinkedIn. I've got my screen ready to go, my screen share ready to go. And we're going to dig in about 2 or 3 minutes. We just come on a little bit early just to make sure that the feed performs. Hi, David on YouTube. Hi, Julia. The last few weeks there's been loads of glitches with live. So we go live a few minutes early. I have to kind of talk a little bit while somebody checks that all the feeds work and everybody's getting in okay. Hi, Matthew. Hi, Truly. So we're going to start in 1 more minute. So you've got a chance to get notepad and pen. I'll give you an intro to the session in a second, but do let us know where you're joining from in the chat. And we will start in a moment. Just whilst we're doing that, I'd love to know who's using the free LinkedIn. So if you're watching on one of the platforms, whichever social, just comment and tell us, are you using free, premium, or sales navigator? Hi, Robert from Ireland. So let us know if it's if you do use free LinkedIn, premium, sales nav, recruiter. Just put it in the chat and let me know which one you're using, and I'll try, if there's a group of people who are using sales nav, I'll try and include some of that stuff today. If there's nobody using sales nav, we'll focus all on the free and premium. So we got sales nav free, LinkedIn and sales nav, Matthew, yeah. Premium, just free, Julia. Brill. So there's a lot of different people using lots of different things. So Andrea's free, Steve's sales nav. Brill. So I think what we'll do is we'll kick off the session. We're a little bit early, so some people will jump in and join a little bit later. Amir, sales nav, Steve, sales nav. So yeah, there's a good mix of people using all the different platforms. So let's kick off. Let's get into the session. Just as an aside, by the way, feel free to ask questions in the chat as we go. I'll keep an eye, the chat's here. So if I'm not being rude by not looking at the camera, the chat is like there. So I'll keep flicking back to the chat to see if there's any questions, and I'll try and answer them as we go. So purpose of today's session is literally to give you some tips, tricks, tactics, strategies to sell more effectively. Actually, I'll say what I was going to say, and then I'll come back to sell more effectively using LinkedIn. So that's what we're going to cover. I've trained about 150,000 people in large, big corporates and small businesses how to use LinkedIn as a sales channel with no pushy tactics, none of the automation stuff, all of the bad stuff you can forget, because I can show you ways that will improve the performance and will get you a better return on investment. So that's what we're going to cover today. Just as an aside, if you've got questions and I can't cover them, let me see if I can get this right. There on screen is an email address. And you can email us and say, hey, can I have a copy of the replay? Can I have a copy of the slides? How would you do this? And we'll come back to you and give you some answers. We also got a free resource today, which we're going to try and put up on screen, which is the Kickstart Guide to Using LinkedIn Tools. It's a free guide you can get. It's a PDF. If you want a copy of that, please do email us, london@maverick.io, and we will email you a copy of this. It'll be tomorrow, sadly, but if you want to email us, we'll send you a copy of this resource. We'll send you a copy of this replay and answer any questions you've got. So, yeah, Kickstart Guide to LinkedIn Tools. It's a free resource for today's training. Go email us, and you can get a copy of it. So I can see Ivan's using HubSpot. Simon, Simon, if you're watching, you may have to flick the audio on the screen. Daniel's using SalesNav, Mike's Premium. Yeah, so there's a good mix of people. So what I want to do is I want to walk you through some principles, then we'll jump to the screen. So I might have to fiddle with my laptop and stuff, but we're going to walk through some principles. So the first thing I said is that LinkedIn will help you get more sales or make your sales more efficient. One of the things that obviously we have to accept with LinkedIn, it's a social media platform now. It used to be a CV job site. It's now a social media platform. It's a content platform with direct messaging. So when we're thinking about how we're using it, we have to really change our approach. It's not like email. It's not like a digital cold call. It's a very different platform. It's a very different way of selling. It actually requires new skills. I've seen some of the best cold callers. I've seen some of the best in-person salespeople come apart when they go onto LinkedIn. So one of the key things that we need to do here is think about, okay, if we're going to sell through LinkedIn, if we're going to do it, bear in mind that the key thing that we're going to try and do is actually convince people to come off LinkedIn. Pretty much all of our stuff that we're doing, we've got a camera glitch at the moment. So maybe what I'll do is I'll jump to a LinkedIn demo in a second. The key thing that we're going to do is get people to move from LinkedIn to another channel. So email, phone, video call, what have you. So when I'm thinking and when I'm talking about how we sell on LinkedIn, one of the fundamental errors that people make is they try to sell on the channel itself. They try to convince people to buy there and then on the channel. Total mistake. What we should be doing is focusing on, actually, what I need to do is convince people and create the curiosity that will give them the incentive to have a call with me. So I'm going to walk through some strategies that you can implement now to decide how to reach out to somebody, how to get them on a call, and how to engage them. We call it the 7 steps of social selling. And it's a proven method that you can use to build a relationship with anybody on the platform and get them off into a meeting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run to my laptop. Hi, Nathan. We've got to say, just apologies with the glitch on the video. There was a dodgy thing with all the technology. It's a nightmare at the moment, the lives. But I'm going to switch to my screen and we're just going to go through some stuff. So first things first, right? Hopefully you can still see me, but I'll move over a little bit so you can get picture in picture. So first things first, when we're talking about outreach and engaging with people on LinkedIn, during the pandemic, we did some research and we researched about 108,000 users on LinkedIn. And we researched their behavior and how they interacted on the platform with the view that what we would do is understand how they would respond to various things so that we could understand the behavior of how people use LinkedIn, how they use it, so that we could train people how better to sell through the platform. So here's what we discovered. Whether you sent a connection request, a DM, a comment on a post, a like on a post, an endorsement, a mention, any of those things that you did, 62%, so nearly 2/3 of all people would come back and check your profile first before they decided how to respond. 2/3. So when you're trying to reach out, and I'm not going to go into the LinkedIn profile in too much detail in this session, but when you're trying to reach out to people, one of the key things that people do is they vet your profile. They view your profile to see, is this person credible? Should I engage? Should I reply? Should I comment? Should I accept the connection request? Should I reply to the message? So there is this almost validation piece of any of your activity that your prospects go through. So 2/3 of all of your prospects go through that process where they literally vet you by your profile. So I'm not going to go into the detail of the profile, but you need to sort it out, bluntly. But of that 62% that came to the profile, half of all of those people, so 1 in 3 of your prospects on LinkedIn will actually vet you via the content on your profile. Posts, featured sections, the works. 1/3 of all of your prospects will vet you by that. What are they looking for? What are they looking for? Well, simply, there is a lot of junk on LinkedIn now. There's a lot of people just sending messages, untargeted, unfocused, waffly, irrelevant stuff. Tons of it. I'm sure you'll agree. Has anybody had one of these dodgy sales pitches or the irrelevant messages? I got one the other day and it said, "Hi Dean, I see you're in the property space. I see you're a property developer." I'm like, "No, I'm not." And they'd just done the laziest of searches and they'd done the laziest of work and sent automated messages out, making them look silly. So there is a lot of this rubbish on the platform. And I hear people complain about Sales Navigator because they say, actually, sometimes you do a Sales Nav search and there's some like rogue results in the search. I actually think that LinkedIn, Nathan, the dreaded automatic follow-up. No, the best one, Nathan, is when, and I'll come to this in a minute, Nathan. I think they put the rogue results in because it will trip you up. It will make you look silly. It will get you to send, "Hey, are you interested in property developing?" And you're not even involved in property. But Nathan, the dreaded follow-up, I'll tell you an example. Somebody reached out to me, and I'll read pretty much every message I get because I'm curious to know, what people are up to and what people are doing. And I got a message from somebody inviting me to an event, and actually the event looked really interesting. They sent me it was like an image in the post of the event, and I thought, this is interesting. And they said in the message, it was all hip and trendy. It was like, "Oh, if you want some details, just hit me back up and I'll send them to you." So I did. So I said, "Yeah, I'd love to know a little bit more about it. Can you send me some more details?" Nothing. And then a few days later, I got the follow-up message saying, "Hey, didn't hear back about this. Did you want me to send some more details?" I was like, sometimes these automations and these bots are smarter than the user. And so human beings, often, we're not smart enough to handle the automation, or we're a little bit lazy and we just don't filter our lists and do our lists carefully. So Ivan says he's guilty. Paul, yeah. So why am I talking about all of this crap stuff on LinkedIn? It's not because I don't love LinkedIn. It's because I want you to understand the landscape that you're operating in. Now, some people would say, "Oh, LinkedIn's gone down the hill since it's become more social. It's become more personal. It's become more non-businessy, and there's more crap in the message inbox." That's true. But it actually means that it's easier to reach people and people are staying on the platform longer because it's become more social. So whilst it has become more accessible to more people and the message inbox is a bit more full of crap, bluntly, what it means is that people are here longer. So that's the upshot. The downside is that the lazy stuff that you could do a few years ago no longer works. People can spot templates. Now, it's no different to email. It's no different to email. Email's got the same thing, the same situation. It's probably not as bad as your email inbox, But it's the same reality. People selling, they want to sell, and they don't know how to sell, so they use broad brush, vague, generic templates. So the landscape we're working on LinkedIn is cluttered, clumsy, and full of crap. Now that we accept that, now we understand that and we appreciate that, we go, okay, do I join the crap? Do I do what everybody else is doing and play a numbers game, throw some mud at the wall and hope something sticks? Or do I do something different? So we know the profile is a fundamental part of vetting. We know that people will dig into our content to see what we're all about. So tip number one of the biggest drivers of inbound leads on LinkedIn is organic posting of content. But the downside is that most people don't post it frequently enough for LinkedIn to really amplify your reach. So I'll give you an example. If you're not posting at least 3 or 4 times per week, you're probably invisible to your connections. If you're not posting 3 or 4 times a week, you're not going to learn what will engage your audience. So I'm not going to dig into content too much, but I'm just going to say it's the biggest driver of inbound leads. It's the biggest way to, and maybe we'll do another session on this about selling with influence on LinkedIn, which is a slightly different way of doing it. Selling with influence is a slightly different model to what I'm talking about today. I can see JC's joined and Paul's here and Nathan's here and Claire's here and another Daniel, another David. So let's look at, okay, what's the journey that I'm going to go on to take a prospect from 0 to a conversation? So let's have a look at what that looks like. So if you're cold calling, if you're cold calling right now, the industry stat is that it will take you 18 attempts to cold call a prospect to get through. 18. That's way up on where it was. The last time I looked, it was 8 times. So it's gone up by more than double. And the last time I looked was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So 2 or 3 years ago, it was 8 and it's now 18. Work from home is probably playing a part in that too. So when we come to LinkedIn, we have a choice. Do we, A, send an outreach message and keep following up till we get a response? That's number one. Or do we, B, work our socks off to warm that prospect so we can get a response? So I would challenge you to think about LinkedIn in a totally different way. Maybe some of you here are, you're more comfortable with the phone. I'm not going to dish you because you're more comfortable with the phone. Some of you here are more comfortable on email. Some of you are more comfortable on LinkedIn. Doesn't matter to me. It's about which channel of your first contact with that prospect is comfortable for you. And of course, which is the channel that is the most easy to access the person. Truly, I think it's in March when we're doing Selling with Influence. So let's think about this as your end game, right? I'm going to pick on Luke. So Luke's a member of our team. Here he is. And let's say Luke is my prospect. And actually, Luke's controlling the cameras. So he might not put himself on camera here. But Luke, I need the camera to go big. So Luke's a member of our team. Can I get myself picture-in-picture somewhere? Is that possible? So Luke's a member of our team. And let's say Luke's my prospect. So one of the first things that you should be doing, here I am. One of the first things that you should be doing is looking at Luke's profile and looking at a number of different things. So before you decide, so let's say I've picked Luke as my prospect right now. The first thing I should do is map out my end game with Luke. So what do I mean by the end game? Right, so I'm looking at Luke and I can see he's got a featured section and all this stuff. So his profile gives me a lot of information about him. And then I can see here on his activity, so I'm going to go to Luke's activity. Now, most people don't go to, do not go to their activity. They don't, most salespeople don't bother. They just look as, is that the right person? Let's go for it. But if you go to their activity, one of the things about people's activity on LinkedIn is it leaves breadcrumbs. So when you're looking at somebody's activity, it leaves breadcrumbs. And when you leave breadcrumbs, it will tell you a lot about the prospect. So I can see, actually, Luke liked a post of my wife's earlier today. So my wife, Louise, shared this post with Luke on it a day ago, so yesterday. So at some point in the last 24 hours, Luke liked this post. That was a little bit of tongue twister. Luke liked this post. So I know that Luke was here in the last 24 hours. So I can also see, you see Leonie, a member of our team, Luke liked Leonie's post. I shouldn't have done this with Luke, really, sure. Luke liked Leonie's post 4 hours ago. So what does that tell me? That tells me at some point in the last 4 hours, Luke was here on the platform. So this activity gives me breadcrumbs. If Luke comments on a post, I can look at the breadcrumbs he's left behind in his activity to show me how does he comment? What's his language like? Is he more conversational? Is he quite formal? What does he engage with? I can learn a lot about Luke by following his breadcrumbs. So number one, look at your prospects' breadcrumbs on LinkedIn to see, are they there? How often are they there? And what do they engage with? And what's their tonality of how they engage? The vast majority of your LinkedIn prospects are what we call lurkers. They're browsing and liking content. They don't post. On the whole, there's not a huge amount that are regular posters, but there will be stuff there that will give you the breadcrumbs. So why are the breadcrumbs important? Luke is definitely on the platform. Luke has been here in the last 24 hours, and actually we know he's been here in the last 4 hours. So if I send Luke a DM, I can know with some confidence how long it would take him to respond. And importantly, if we did this the other way around and Luke hadn't been here or hadn't posted or liked something in the last 3 or 4 days, what does that tell me? It tells me that potentially Luke has not logged in for 3 or 4 days. So if I send a message, it might get buried under all of the crap that's coming in about all the other stuff, web development, mobile apps, recruitment, do you want to invest in property, all of that stuff. So my message to Luke, if he was not very active in the last 3 days, I might have the most compelling message on earth. But if I've picked the timing wrong, if I've not looked at the breadcrumbs, guess what? My message is buried. Absolutely buried. And it might take Luke, Luke might find it, he might not. So once we're connected, so hopefully, Luke, you haven't sent me any messages with anything abusive. But, that's a relief. You see now, because I'm connected to Luke, I also see that he's available on mobile, and Luke has the green circle which says he was recently active. But now Luke has hopefully taken my hint, and he's going on to his mobile, and I can see when he becomes active. So this hollow green here will actually flip to solid green at some point. I'll just refresh the browser just to see. I'm hopeful that Luke's... Yes, so you see, now I know Luke is here. So when you're thinking about this, timing is everything on LinkedIn. Now, The active status on LinkedIn, everybody will have it. Some people don't have it right now. They're still rolling bits and pieces of it out, but a lot of people will have it. So if I want to reach out to Luke now, I know he's going to be there because I know he's active. So if Luke ignores me in the next few minutes, guess what? I know my message failed. Myrna, I don't agree with that. I think a lot of people do. I'm going to come to the less active people, but I think a lot of people, even the most inactive, I really categorize them in our training, in our Accelerator program. I talk about them in terms of 3 categories. There's the highly active and responsive. There's the active but non-responsive. In other words, there's not much there, but they're there-ish. So they might be there a couple of times a week. And then there's the zombies. It's like they've probably not logged in months. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that people move through, Maverick, we're all active here. Yeah, we're on the platform. We live it. We breathe it every single day. So our profiles are active pretty much all the time. But other people's will not be as active as ours. And so what you will find is that people will drift in and out of activity. Some people have a surge of activity and then they'll disappear and then they'll come back. No, Mohammed, I'll answer your question. Greg, can you tell when sometimes a LinkedIn account is managed by someone else? So, Greg, a good question, and we're going to get into this timing piece in a minute. A lot of CEOs' profiles are generally managed. So they'll be managed by an EA or PA, but the trick with that is to message later in the day. So statistically, because we've done all this, if you message towards the end of the day, that afternoon, post 2 o'clock, you're more likely to get the decision maker. Messaging in a morning is tricky. So messaging in the morning is pretty much a no-no. Yeah. So just bear in mind, messaging in the morning, people chunk their days. They've got Zoom call, they've got all that in the morning. But in the afternoon, our energy levels start to waver and we need the distraction. So people come back to LinkedIn and flick on LinkedIn in the afternoons. So good times is post 2 o'clock is a good time to reach out. And to go to Greg's point, evenings is good for C-levels. So 7 p.m. and that way on. One thing to really bear in mind is that sometimes what happens with LinkedIn messages is that people will open it, fully intend to respond, and then it just gets lost and they forget about it. So one of the key things you can do, top priority thing you can do is make your timing right for the decision maker. So afternoons, early evenings is a much better time to message. Greg, Sundays can be good. It depends on who your decision makers are. What I'd say to you, Greg, is trial it. Sundays, I did a run on Sunday evenings around 7:30, 8 p.m. and I got pretty good response because people are like, it's work tomorrow, but I'm not sure what I'm doing. I can't go out because I've got, early start or whatever in the morning. So Sunday evenings I've found to work quite well. But sometimes what happens is people open the message, they forget, and they've completely forgotten and moved on. So common groups. Greg, I'm sure you're going to mention common groups. I would not mention groups. I think LinkedIn groups need some work at the moment. Of course, you can message people who you're in groups with, but what I want to do, and I'm hopeful I can do it without showing my whole inbox here. Let me see if I can do it. One of the downsides about InMail is it actually shows differently. So InMail can be really annoying. So what I would say is be careful with InMails because they don't really work so well. So you can see an InMail comes in with message request or InMail. So immediately you know it's advertising. So if your subject line doesn't cut the mustard, it's gone. So I always encourage people to use our 7-step methodology to get connected with the prospect. It works on every title. We've got a number of clients in the cybersecurity and technology space, and we have found that the 7-step method works on CISOs, CTOs, CIOs, CEOs, COOs, CMOs, CROs, and all the other Cs too. CFOs are a different kettle of fish. And I would encourage you to study the breadcrumbs on CFOs intensely because they are a different animal altogether on LinkedIn. There are some that are really active and there are a lot that are zombies. I don't mean that literally, but their accounts are zombies. Yes, so Greg, yes, if you're in a group, one of the key ways to get visibility, albeit it doesn't get you a lot of impact in terms of followers and stuff. Posting in groups and being dominant with value in groups can help you get better connected with people who are in those groups. And Sales Navigator is brilliant for going, which groups are my decision makers in? So if anybody is unsure about how to find their target audience that are in groups with them, let me know in the chat and I'll show you. So we've talked about the timing of using the DMs. We've talked about the LinkedIn DMs and using the breadcrumbs. But what do you do for the people who are not so active or the people where you want to make a high impact? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump onto Luke's profile again. I'm going to send Luke a message. And this is a bit unconventional, but actually it's very, very effective. And I'm just going to do a voice message to Luke, which is very effective for 2 reasons. One, it's high impact. So people see it and go, "Ooh, what is this?" I'll show you what it looks like now. That's number 1, why it's a good thing to do. Number 2 reason why it's a good thing is people don't know what you're saying. So sometimes with messages, if you've got a lot of stuff to get out and text, people can read it and skip it. But when it's a voice message, people can't hear what you've got to say they can't hear it without listening. So, hi Luke, it's Dean. I am stalking you live on a webcast on Thursday, the 17th of February. And unfortunately, people are seeing that we have a tendency to share GIFs in our message box back and forth. So I hope you don't mind me doing this and giving you your moment of fame, but I've already done it, so I'll have to ask for forgiveness later. Thanks, Luke. So, as you can see on screen, I've sent Luke a 30-second, 29-second voice message. This might sound strange, but it's highly effective. And the reason it's effective is obviously they don't know what you're saying, so there's a curiosity element of, what's Dean sent me? That's number 1. Number 2, the way it displays in the message box. Yeah, so Luke will see, you sent a voice message. So Luke will see, Dean sent you a voice message. So Luke doesn't know what I've said in that voice message. All he can see is that Dean sent him a voice message. So that's number 1. There's a bit of curiosity of, what's this Dean sent me? Number 2, they get to hear me and my personality. It makes it human. Messages often on LinkedIn feel very impersonal. Look at some of the messages you get. For some reason, we have this weird brain thing where we basically forget we're talking to human beings. But when you do a voice message, you make it human again. They can hear the sound of your voice, they can hear your intentions, they can hear the way you communicate. You no longer sound like a die-hard telephone terrorist. You now sound like a human being. So these kind of voice messages can be very effective for those people who are active or are kind of middle of the road, where they're kind of active, but they're on a couple of times a week. There's breadcrumbs for a couple of times a week, but there's not enough to kind of really engage them instantly. These are good ways to do it. Now, what about the people where we want to we know that it's going to be a tough job or a tough sell to get a conversation going on LinkedIn? This is where what we call relational priming comes in. Now, relational priming is simply, and if you've never heard of the phrase of priming before, it's a methodology we teach, which is about creating demand through content and then reducing the friction through integrating the sales and marketing process. So reducing the friction between you and the prospect. In other words, I don't want to be sold to, I don't know who you are, all of that stuff. So content can do a bit of that, but actually you can take action to reduce some of the friction. Remember I said earlier about flipping the process round. Instead of sending one message and then following up, what can we do to make the first message more effective? So let's think about these zombie accounts. Let's think about these less than active accounts. There's various resources online where you can find the email address of the decision maker. There's various, Zoom info and platforms like that where you can find their phone number. One of the things you could do is prime your prospect on LinkedIn with the intention of opening a dialogue on email or opening a dialogue on the phone. Now, you wouldn't just connect. I've had the most horrendous ones where literally somebody sends me a connection request and within a few minutes, they're ringing my mobile phone. That's awful. That's not sales. That's just playing numbers. There's no skill in that. There's no relationship in that. It's just a cold call that makes you regret accepting that connection request. So what we teach is the 7 steps. And the 7 steps are stages and processes you take a prospect through to warm them up, to get them familiar with you, to get them seeing your content, groups in your feed, get them connected, get some interactions if you can, but get your face seen and be around their world for a little bit before you do the outreach. So let me give you one quick example of this, and then we'll do some questions. And somebody's asked about questions here. Christina, yes, if you email us, we'll send you a copy of the replay, and I'll just pop the free resource on screen again. If anybody wants a copy of this, it's free today, so you can get a copy. Just email us on screen, london@maverick.io. Send us an email and say, can I have a copy of the Kickstart guide using LinkedIn tools, and we will send it to you. It will be tomorrow, but we'll send you a replay of the video and we'll send you a copy of the PDF too. So we'll leave that there. If you want a copy, email us. Our team in our London office will email you a copy of this, and you can knock yourselves out with it. So coming back to the people where they're not so active on LinkedIn. So I can't show you an example, but let's say they've not posted in the last 3 months, but they've been active in the last month, say. They've liked something, there's a few breadcrumbs for the last month. Here's what I'd be doing. I'd try and engage with their content, like and comment if I can. If there's nothing there, I would send a connection request and I would put a personal note in there and say, hi, whoever, I'll do a real simple message, literally expanding my network into this sector. You came up in a search. I'm not into the high pressure selling or anything like that, but I'd love to add you into my network or have you in my network. Is that okay, Dean? And as long as you stick to what you say there, that's all good. So they accept, and you can send a thank you message. Send a thank you message. Thanks for connecting. No big sales pitch. You don't need to do any kind of sales pitch. This is about warming the prospect, priming the prospect for your end game, where you really want to talk to them, where you earn the right for them to reply. And you might make sure you stay in their world over, we say 3 to 4 interactions you need to build up with that person, sharing posts in groups they're in, engaging on their profile if there's something there, posting regularly. Do you realize for the first 72 hours of connecting with somebody, they're probably going to see you in their feed. So if they're browsing on LinkedIn and you're posting and they've connected in the first 72 hours, guess what? They're probably going to see your posts. So this is where the content can do some work for you, because if now they're seeing you in their feeds, it's another touch point. It's another way that they get to know you a bit more. So this is key to break down some of these barriers. So we would interact with them 3 or 4 times. Then we try to offer some value. Now this is where you have to be smart, because if you know they're not very active on the platform, don't send a DM. Drop them an email and send them the value and say, I was on LinkedIn this morning, I was sharing this post, I spotted you'd not been on in a couple of days, so I thought I'd share it with you. Hope all's well. Best regards, Dean. Nothing else. Nothing else. I'm just trying to build up the two-way conversation, adding value without doing anything. I might try and interact again on the profile, try and interact again. And when I come to, now I want to talk business, and that might be 3-4 days later, it might be a week later, whatever it is, whatever timescale you want to work on. I'll give you some guidance on timescales in a minute. The next message where you want to instigate a call, the key thing that you need to do is make a real short, sweet, compelling, I really think that this might be something of interest to you because it will help you with X, Y, or Z. Would you be free for 25 minutes, give a specific time that we can go through this? Now, you have to understand, with those people who are not very active, if you want a response and you want a positive response, that curiosity piece comes back again. Curiosity piece. If you don't have that, they will see no need in talking to you. They'll see no need to reply. They'll see no need for anything. But the idea is, think about this as a timescale. You connect on day 1, 3 to 4 interactions before you do the thank you message. Then you might follow up with a value piece, a couple more days. Then you do a couple more interactions. Then you do this email outreach. And it's short, sweet, relevant, targeted. It's not template. It's you. It's, all of that stuff. You don't need the weird picture of you with a mug waving with their name on it. You can just be you because you've earned that interaction. So when it gets down the road, guess what? They're more responsive. The reply rate's higher. The willingness to respond's higher. Why? Because you've not just hammered them. You've actually took time to get noticed, to get seen, to build the relationship. Now, admittedly, it's tougher with the less dormant accounts, but actually we've used this. We've seen it work in big companies, small companies, where they actually earn the right to the conversation. And the acceptance rate and the willingness to go on a call, if you understand their challenges and their needs, and you don't just say, we can do this and we're wonderful, and look at all the brand names that we work with. If that's what you do, you're going nowhere. But if you actually speak to the person, if you actually say, look, I was looking at what you're up to as a business, and I think there's some spaces where we can add some value in this particular area. Could I get 15 minutes to show you what I was looking at and see if there's something there for you that would help you with this? Real simple. So we've got a few questions. How effective is the newsletter in terms of using it as a sales pitch? So truly, the newsletter feature is pretty effective. It's pretty effective, but you have to, if you want to use it as a sales tool, you have to really know your market well. You have to know the pain points well. You have to understand your messaging well to convert. So oddly enough, today, if our Accelerator students are on here, they might have a tip-off. We're actually going to generate leads with newsletters. So that's what we're doing in our Accelerator program at the moment. We're writing content using the newsletters to actually generate inbound leads. But you have to deeply, deeply understand the needs, the challenges, the goals, and the frustrations of your prospects so that you can create content that will convert. That's a webcast in itself, content that converts. So yes, the answer is yes, truly, but you have to build your network. Think about it. You've got to build your network with the right people, and then you've got to name your newsletter to speak to their challenges so that they choose to accept the newsletter, to say they'll come. That's number two. Number three, you've got to consistently produce content that speaks to that need and adds value into their world. Now, if you do that, you actually will find that it does generate business and it does generate leads. But if you don't do those things, it will not work. So somebody's asked how to get a prospect to accept an appointment request or point us in the right direction towards the right person within his company. So people buy from people. People help people they know, they like, and they trust. So if I want to get an appointment with somebody, I have to show them a reason why it's beneficial to them. What's in it for them? And what's in it for them is not them learning how cool your stuff is. It's about them resonating with, this might be able to do something. I'm curious. You just need to create curiosity to get people to a meeting. I call it the Goldilocks issue. If you give people too much information, they can say, I don't need to know this. I've seen this before. They may not have seen it before, but because you put information in there, they are contextualizing what you say or what you write based on their experience. So you could be a completely different service, but because you've used similar phraseology to something else, they interpret your message like that thing that we tried last year. So the idea is that you talk about the pains, the challenges, the goals, the opportunities, rather than the bells and whistles of your service. Yes, truly it is. Think about it. I often talk to salespeople who've done a lot of in-person sales. When you go to a meeting, let's say you've cold called somebody and they've agreed to have a meeting with you, and you drive round to their office and you walk in, and there's another tip here. I'm not going to elaborate on it because I'll give too much away, but there's another tip here, and it speaks to the other person's question. When you'd go into the company, you would walk in and there'd be a reception, and you'd speak to whoever was on the reception. You'd ask what was going on, how busy is it? You'd ask lots of different questions, chit chat with somebody who isn't relevant. Hopefully somebody's taking a hint here. You'd chit chat with some people who aren't relevant, you have no intention to sell to, and you would make clear that they know and you know that you're not there to sell, you're there to have a chit chat, break the ice, learn a bit about the company and what's going on in the business and how it's going. Somebody will get that hint that I've just told them there. And then, whilst you're on reception, some other people will wander around and there'll be conversations going on. You will then get to the point where the person comes to greet you to say hi. You used to shake hands and all that stuff. And then you'd probably walk to a meeting room. And you'd walk to that meeting room and you'd chat about your family, your holidays, the football, the weather, all of this stuff in that few minutes to get to the meeting room where you'd sit down, and you'd probably keep chatting for a little bit longer, and then you'd turn to business, building rapport. So somebody got what I talked about at the reception point there. Somebody got what I was telling. Did anybody else get what I was saying there about the reception piece and about how you can learn a lot by engaging with the receptionist? But yet most salespeople ignore the people. They ignore the people who are not relevant to them because they only want the decision maker. It's a mistake. It's a serious mistake. Because, number one, people don't always have the title that you think they do. I have met directors and I've met sales directors that have no power. They can't even spend 10 quid. And I've met sales directors with the ability to spend £1 million. I've met receptionists that can spend £10,000, and I've met receptionists that can't spend a penny. But on LinkedIn, they all look the same because it's receptionist. Be very careful about just being so picky, as I'll only connect with the most relevant people in the company. So somebody got, hopefully 1, 2, 3 people got what I was saying there about connecting with different people in the company. They can be good champions, influencers. They can be good door openers if you build a relationship. They can also be helpful to get you an introduction. So Paul hashtags in posts. So this hashtags. LinkedIn's hashtags are, I'll say 2 things about LinkedIn's hashtags. Number 1, and I've only got a few minutes left. Number 1, Paul, hashtags, don't go over the top, 3 to 5 tops. You don't need any more than that. It does not matter where the hashtags are. If you put them in the comments, it makes no difference. If you put them in the post copy, it makes no difference. The only thing I would say is some people go nuts and put loads of hashtags on. It looks weird. Yeah, just like you see a lot of people, they tag like tons of people in their post to get their eyeballs on it to boost the post. It looks weird. Yeah. If you want to do it, I'm not the LinkedIn police. You can do whatever you like. I personally think it looks weird. But what I would say to you is think about the hashtags in a different way. So go and look at which are the hashtags my target clients are most likely to be following. See this so many times. Cybersecurity salespeople and marketers putting hashtag cybersecurity on their posts. Why would they do that? Why would they not put the hashtags their target audience are following? For an example, we have programs, courses. In fact, we've got a course on the 23rd of March. I'll just do one little plug. 23rd of March, I'm running the full masterclass workshop on how to get sales on LinkedIn. Start to finish, step by step. How to go viral, how to generate inbound leads. Literally everything you need to know, practical. Like literally do this. And we'll do demos of lead generation and content in the workshop. So if you want to know more about the 23rd of March, drop us an email. We'll send you a link. It isn't free, I'm afraid. It's paid. But we'll send you a link and you can have a look and evaluate it. I think there's a few tickets left. There's about 7 left. And I think it's 150 quid for the whole masterclass. And it's interactive as well. Anyway, plug over. Hashtags. I will never use hashtag LinkedIn training on my post, Paul. And the reason why I will never use the hashtag LinkedIn training is because the only people who use it are LinkedIn trainers. If I'm a content writer and I'm a freelance content writer, I will never put hashtag content writing on my post. Why? Why would I want to show my content to more people like me? So if I was a content writer for technology companies, guess what hashtag I'd be using? Hashtag technology. So I always recommend to people pick 3 hashtags, one in the tens of thousands, one in the hundreds of thousands, one in the millions. You can play around with a mix and match, but try to find the hashtags your target audience are most likely to follow so that you can then go, actually, I'm getting it out into the right places and I'm not getting more of my competition or more of my company looking at my content. Robert, you're absolutely right. The receptionist is the gatekeeper and will be the person that you may need to get passed on the second call, so build rapport. And likewise, digitally, that person might be the person you get to know and build that rapport, and you end up building that rapport with them on the phone, and they might do you the honor or do you the favor of introducing you on email. But you have to build the rapport with people who can unlock that account, particularly if your target is a zombie on LinkedIn. So there might be strategic people within the business that you want to build relationships with because they're the people that can get you to the right person. Robert's bob on. Robert's bob on. that was not a thought. That was just me being a Northern British person. Anyway, so I've gone through quite a lot of stuff here. Timings, breadcrumbs, using the 7 steps to get and build that rapport before you pitch. Don't focus on building a pitch that's telling people how wonderful you are. Create the curiosity about the pains and the outcomes and the goals so that they will go, this could be interesting. I'll give you some time. How do you build rapport with gatekeepers? Real simple. I'll show you on Sales Navigator quickly. So hopefully you can see Sales Nav. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Maverick's company page. I'll go to the UK page or the UK European page. And we can see here there's 50 employees in the company. And I can click on and see all the companies, all the people. So on Sales Nav here, I can go to Spotlights. And I can see who's changed jobs in the last 90 days. And I can see who's posted on LinkedIn in the last 30 days. These are the most active people on the platform. So on here, you can see there is 38 of our team who are the most active. And I can see who they all are. There's my, Paul. Sorry, Paul, I'll answer your question in a minute. So we got a couple of questions. So I would be looking here, okay, I'll engage with Abby May because Abby May is one of the most active. Perfect. That's what I'd be doing. I'd be looking for the people. So how do I do that? How do I pull it back to engage with the most active people? So 7 steps. I will give you, if you want to email us, I'll send you a walkthrough, a kind of PDF of the 7 steps. Step 1, step 2. Step 7 is the conversation. That's where you start the business conversation. And there is a magic window of how much time you leave between each one. You don't do it too quick, that you look like a stalker, and you don't do it too slow that people forget you. The biggest challenge for salespeople on LinkedIn is actually keeping a rhythm, keeping a pace and a frequency to the way they do things, consistency. So somebody's asked, how do we build rapport? 7 steps: interact, engage, interact, engage, interact, engage, get connected, interact, engage, start a conversation. That simple. Start a conversation. Greg, yes, the voice message is only available on the native LinkedIn.com app. It's not available on Sales Navigator. It just means you have to be a bit more organized if you're using Sales Nav with your notes on Sales Nav or in your CRM. But actually, it's really good to do. Yeah, so the 7 steps, Paul, 7 steps, drop us an email, london@maverick.io, and we'll send you that along with a copy of the Kickstart LinkedIn Tools Guide. Drop us an email, we'll send that to you. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, follow, connect with me, follow me, whatever you want to do. And obviously, if you get value from this, do tell other people so that we get a bit of brand reach out of it. That'd be awesome. So if you want the Kickstart guide, that's cool. If you want to come to our masterclass on the 23rd of March, again, you can email for details. We'll send it to you. But just remember, I know I've crammed a ton of stuff in there, so you probably want the replay, which is cool. But there's a lot more to the messaging than just sending what you want to send. That's what everybody else is doing. It doesn't work. If you've got serious decision makers, you're trying to move and get their attention, it's worth putting the time in. It's worth looking at the breadcrumbs. It's worth thinking about the end game of how you're going to open this conversation up before you start. And it's worth building the rapport before you pitch, or as we call it, priming. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to sign off and say thank you so much. Please come find me on LinkedIn if you've got questions. Email address is on screen. We'll be back next week for another set. I won't be back next. I might be back next week. I think I might be back next week for another training session. So you can go find that on our page, sign up for it. Again, it's free. Help you grow your business, get more clients, and charge better prices. Thanks for joining us.
Past year, Maverick has helped generate more than 15 million in new business. The biggest reason for this is our 90-day training and implementation platform we call the Accelerator program, where we teach your team to sell on social media with an implement-as-you-go strategy. It's not a pre-recorded course, it's hands-on sales training that develops and grows with you, with 90 days of real action that generates business and long-term revenue. So who is it for? This program is for entrepreneurs, marketing and sales professionals who want to sell without ads, cold calling, or pushy tactics. A better way of selling with real steps to take which speeds up your sales process without burning any bridges. These are just a few examples of results our members have achieved using the Accelerator. As you can see, the Accelerator isn't about quick wins, it's about building a better sales process. If you'd like to learn more, just book a call with the Maverick team and we'll show you how the Accelerator program can win you new business.